Hi, I'm Anthony from the Basement Reef, and welcome back to another episode of Plant Talk with the Basement Reef. And this is a very special episode that I have for you guys today. If this is your first time tuning into our channel though, we're a retail aquatic pet store and houseplant shop located out of Columbia, Missouri. And this is our channel where we focus on all sorts of things related to keeping tropical houseplants. You might notice that my store is a mess right now, and everything's pushed out of the way. And that's because I'm standing in the aftermath of by far the craziest thing that we have done since we opened the store 2 years ago. This weekend, we were very excited and privileged to have been able to host Ecuagenera for a pop-up show at our store. Ecuagenera, if you're unfamiliar, is one of the world's largest exporters and importers of tropical plants and orchids. They have multiple locations in Ecuador where they're based out of, as well as U.S. branches in Apopka, Florida, and San Diego, as well as a branch over in Europe and Germany. It's a very large company. Not many sellers of plants have more species than them. They're a pretty big deal in the plant world. We were excited to have them, and we feel like the show absolutely delivered. Let me back up a little bit though, and tell you how this show came to be, how we set up for it, and what it's like from the perspective of a store to host one of these Ecuagenera pop-up shops.
Well, to begin with, I knew that Equa had been hosting these pop-up shops around the country, and I figured why not shoot my shot and reach out and see if they'd like to have one in Columbia, Missouri. To my surprise, they quickly responded that they would, and from there the show was on. I knew that a show with Ecuagenera would be a big draw on its own, but I also knew that I had a little bit of extra room in my shop to fit one more vendor, and I had just the perfect people in mind, my friends at NBD Plants, based out of St. Louis. With the lineup set, it was time to start promoting and wait for the show. The week of the show, we got an email asking if we could drive to the airport to pick up the plants, so we said of course. They barely fit in my truck though, and it's a good thing they did because the airport was 2 hours away from us, in St. Louis. Back at the store though, we start to unpack the boxes, and we see that Equa really brought a lot of plants to this event, and they look great. They don't look like they were too bothered by the shipping, which isn't surprising. It was really nice out for November. This is John, the employee that Ecuagenera sent to help us with this pop-up event. I would have loved to get an interview with him, but he doesn't speak much English. We got along well, but there was a communication issue. We think we're going to do this again though, and both me and him are going to work on communicating better next time. But one thing I can say is that he did a phenomenal job putting on this event. Let's get back to exactly how many plants Ecuagenera brought to the show. When I say that they brought a lot with them, I really mean it. This was the packing list for everything that we picked up from the airport. As you can see, any genus of plant that you can think of, they brought several. Just every species that I'm familiar with is here. There's very few just plain species, philodendrons, anthuriums, or orchids that I didn't see available. In fact, there were 343 different species of plants on this invoice, and that's before John brought 2 more boxes of plants with him the morning of the show. One of nothing but orchids, and another that had some really nice unicorn plants, like Asperitas sancti. Between the two of us, it did not take us long to have the store ready, and once it was ready, everything looked awesome. This first booth here is NBD Plants, and they brought everything I hoped they would, and more. We had an interview with them on the second day of the show that we'll get to later in the video. But you can see, their booth was impressive. This back part of the store is my stock. We made sure to bring our A game and have our rare plants around, as well as lots of small plants for people that might want to check an event like this out, but might not have the budget. And then here is the boxes upon boxes of plants that Ecuagenera brought. This is really what this event was about. Now it was finally time for the day of the show. I wasn't sure quite what to expect, but I'll tell you, it wasn't this. This exceeded my wildest expectations. We had so many people that it took us 3 hours to clear the line outside our door, and we were so busy that we had to count people in and out just to stay under capacity for the fire code. It was also an incredibly cold day outside, so everybody who came out really toughed that out too. It was awesome. I also can't even imagine how overwhelming of a shopping experience this must have been from a customer perspective. I had a good opportunity to go through these boxes at several points throughout the event, and it was enough plants to make my head spin, and that's before we even got into everything that I had and that NBD Plants brought along. Everybody really seemed to be enjoying themselves though. Everywhere you looked was smiling faces, people making new friends, talking about plants, and just generally good vibes. It was a great event. And I'll tell you, I was a little bit worried about inviting a company like Ecuagenera out to Columbia, Missouri, and that it might be a bust and not worth their time. And that really wasn't the case. We stayed busy for the entire duration of the first day of the show. This series of shots was taken at multiple points through the day, just to show you that from when we opened the doors to when we closed, we really did have a steady flow of people. It was great to see. This was a 2-day event though, so even with one successful day in the books, we still had another day to go. We were all very tired from the first day, but we're ready to get back at it. Before we started for the day though, I did manage to get an interview with NBD Plants, so I'll show you that.
Alright, so now I'm here with my friend Olivia from NBD Plants. I invited them out from St. Louis just to have one more vendor at this event and add a little bit of extra pop. They really delivered and brought some great plants, as I knew they would. That's why I invited them out. So now I'm just going to ask them a few questions about what they brought today and their business in general. So we're on the second day of the event today. Did you enjoy the first day? Are you glad that you came out?
Yeah, it was super busy. We had a really good turnout yesterday morning. I think we had a couple hours, basically a straight rush. And I met a lot of customers in person, met some people from Kansas City. I didn't realize that people in Kansas City knew who I was, but here we are. So yeah, it's nice to put a face to the name when you have people who are repeat customers and when they show up and buy something. It's nice to meet them.
Cool. So you do a lot of aroids, like some rare tropical plants, but also you brought a lot of different cacti and things like that. I noticed, which is a little different from what I have here in the store and what Equa brought for sure. So that was cool. What's your favorite little cactus that you brought with you today?
Oh my gosh. I like the Astrophytum super cabutos because they are really complex and each one has literally its own unique design. So no two are exactly the same. And they're fuzzy, not spiky. I don't like spiky balls. I only like fuzzy balls. So if you can't pet it, I don't want it.
And one thing I noticed immediately amongst all these cacti yesterday, it sold, but I got some B-roll, so we'll cut it over this footage. You had several lithops, but one of those actually had bloomed, and that's something you don't see too often. And I follow you on social media, and if I'm not mistaken, that didn't come with a bloom. That bloomed under your hair, right?
And don't ask me how, because I have no idea. But with those, I literally just leave them all alone, and they're just under, I think, Barina bar lights in a grow cabinet. And it just slowly opened, and it was really beautiful. It looked almost like a dandelion flower. It was that bright yellow.
So they said they don't want to give any advice on it, but clearly they're doing something right with the lithops because they all look really good, actually, all the cacti
just
and
leave
things
them
like
alone.
that.
Yeah.
So I guess one last question for you. Put you on the spot here. What's your favorite other plant you brought today? Just like an aroid.
I very much like this philodendron Whippleway. This is a newer one. This is a wish list plant for me. I like plants that have different colors of leaves. The leaf will come out one color and then it'll fade out to another one. And these are very mottled and speckled. And it's just not something that you would ever see. You would never see a plant with almost pure white kind of pinkish leaves. So they're pretty hard to find. And a couple of years ago, I wouldn't have been able to get one. But
yeah, these aren't common at all, especially in the U.S. All the plants are starting to permeate the market a little bit more, but it's not everywhere you can walk into and even see a Whippleway. So it was cool just to see this sitting on the table here. And that's exactly the type of thing we were trying to deliver with this event, was just an impressive array of plants, rare ones and common ones, just all in one spot. And I've been really happy with the whole thing. So hopefully the second day goes good. I'm excited for it.
yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for doing this little interview with me.
And here's a better look at NBD Plants' booth. It really was impressive. They brought several large monsteras, albos, Thai constellations, a skeleto, several different anthuriums, just lots of different plants here. A bunch of Hoyas, which I believe they propagate themselves, just really cool stuff here. This is a baby Aurea monstera, Adansonii variegated, Monstera Peru variegated. Every variegated rare wish list plant that you could think of was here at their table, right in the middle of Missouri. And they're a local company. Really can't beat that. They pointed out the Whippleway in our video, but that wasn't even the two plants I was most excited to see. This caramel marble here is insane. I've only seen those in pictures. This is a plant that's really held its value and still usually fetches a pretty penny. Being able to hold one here in my hands is a very cool thing. Almost as cool as this nice sized Spiritus Sanctii that they brought. Ecuagenera brought a couple of small seedling sized ones with them, but this one has some good size to it. Plant of the show in my eyes. NBD Plants also brought their friend Wendy along to help them out and ensure things went smoothly, as well as sell some of her own stuff from her company Wendy's Amazing Plants and Pots. Wendy brought a really awesome selection of keychains, crystals, pots, and jewelry with her, and it was something different from the rest of the vendors and definitely helped the show. We were glad to have her here. And this here was my only real opportunity to get Ecuagenera's booth on camera. It was really busy the whole time. As you can see, these plants look pretty good. They may be imported, but it was nice weather, and they made the trip from Ecuador in just 4 days. Not much was left after the first day though. I mean, these boxes look stuffed now, but you should have seen them on the first day. Roughly, they're organized by box, with boxes being either orchids or aeroids. Beyond that though, is chaos. That's what I was getting at earlier when I said that I can't even imagine what this would be like as a shopping experience from a customer's perspective. How do you even conceptualize what all is in here, let alone make decisions about it? One thing I'm very glad about is that they had pictures of what the blooms of all the orchids looked like. I am not an orchid person at all, but this made it really easy to at least know what I was shopping for. Over at the end of the last table was a selection of potted unicorn plants that Ecuagenera brought with them. There was Jose Bueno, Bicolor, Spiritus Sanctii, Ring of Fire, Paraíso Verde, Tortums, lots of very nice legendary plants here. So it was cool that they brought that type of stuff out, as well as the species types that they're known for. Now all that was left was to unlock the door one more time for the second day of this show. I had my doubts about whether we could pack the store 2 days in a row for Equa, but everybody came out and surprised me. We were just as busy the second day. I've done a lot of different shows on the coral side of things, frag swaps and things like that, and usually a 6-hour show is plenty long and it slows down. But this was 2 7-hour days, and we kept it busy the whole time. I was impressed. Now I'm going to show you a little bit of footage that some customers sent me, things that they were excited to have picked up at this pop-up event, and I'll just tell you a little bit about how I think it went. In short, I think it went really well. In fact, by the end of the second day, John from Equa was already talking to us about when we might like to do this again next year. So if that's the thing that comes to pass, I'm super excited about it. Now, I did incur some costs putting on this show, but I also had a little bit of above average weekend. So in the end, that pretty much worked itself out for me. But the real thing here was in establishing a relationship with Equa and putting on an event that would bring people in from across the state. And both of those things definitely, absolutely happened. And they even let me have a go at a small wholesale lot at the end of the show. They let me go through and pick what I wanted and get it at a decent price. So that stuff is now in my store acclimating, and we'll have some really cool plants to put out on the sales floor throughout the winter. And that just about sums up this event. It was a really great time, and it was really cool seeing literally hundreds of people come out just to buy some plants. And it was a big privilege to be able to host Ecuagenera all the way from Ecuador. I'm glad we didn't disappoint, and that Columbia, Missouri is a place that they actually want to come back to. Thank you so much for watching this video today, and if you were at the event this weekend, thank you especially. Every single person that came out was a huge part of making this event exactly what it turned out to be. And if you liked this video and you want to see others like it, plenty of other plant content, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Both those things would do a ton to help us grow, and we would definitely appreciate it. Oh yeah, one last thing. I managed to knock my #1 wishlist plant off at this event and got myself a small Spiritus Sanctii. I couldn't be happier with it, and it's in a really cool pot by Wendy. Thanks again, everybody.